All right, guys, welcome to another edition of Texans Unfiltered, a Houston football podcast for your Houston Texans. I am young Ari Gold, and I am joined by my friend and co-host, John Wade, the Garnet Texan. And John had a nice weekend out on the boat out in Lake Travis. Thank you to Carefree Boat Club. That was a nice little day on the lake.
Dude, it was one of the best days I've had in a very long time. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was nice, relaxing.
Y'all, please give Carefree Boat Club at least a call. Like, you don't necessarily have to, even though I strongly recommend that you rent a boat because they're awesome and they're nice. But at least call them so that they know that people listen to us. That'd be very kind of y'all.
Yeah, absolutely. So this week is running backs and tight ends. It's very fitting that it's tight ends, as I'm excited to have the conversation that everybody seems to want to have right now. What up, Sup 7? Make sure you guys all hit the like and subscribe button, please. Also, we have shirts, and the shirts are selling. They're selling rather quickly. So if you guys are interested in a Johnson's in the backfield tee, I'm going to put the link in our description for our podcast, and also here for you guys. Clifford, what up? Jay Sinister, what up? Rob Hugs, everybody, what's going on? All right, so obviously, make sure you guys are following us on Twitter at Houston FB Pod, and on Instagram at Houston FB Pod. You can follow me at I am Young Ari Gold, and you can follow John at John A Wade 3. Don't forget to follow Texans _thoughts. Don't forget to follow Patrick Storm TU on Twitter. He just recently changed it. And don't forget to follow Jair at JRL Sports TX on Twitter as well. Make sure you guys take some time to go do that. Quick reminder, make sure you guys are in the Eventbrite, like you guys have gone to Eventbrite, and you guys are getting your tickets and RSVPing for the opening event. It's very, very important that you guys do that, because we are trying to give Kobo's Q an idea on how many people are coming so he can be prepared food-wise. So it's really, really important that you guys do that. So I'm going to drop a link here into the chat so you guys can see where you guys can get your tickets. Really, really, really need to know who's coming and who's not so we can make sure you guys have it. All right. Let's see. What else? I think that's really it.
Y'all
Sure.
definitely want to make sure you get fed. So
Yes.
RSVP so you can make sure you get fed. Like, we're not even kidding. This guy, Kobo's Q, if you haven't had it, it's awesome. I mean, honestly, it got Arian's seal of approval. So, I mean, what else do you need to know? RSVP, make sure you get fed, make sure everybody can eat. That's all it takes.
Yeah, absolutely. Jay Sinister, save your tight end questions, as we are obviously talking about tight ends tonight. So your Kahale stuff, big day today, first and only big day, but yet the Kahale crowd has come out, and they're ready. They're ready for the Rob Gronkowski, as everybody said when he was drafted, and all these good things. Had one good day at camp, and all of a sudden he's tight end 1. So we'll get into tight ends a little bit later. Lots of things to discuss. But with that, make sure you guys go to patreon.com /Texans Unfiltered. We are, I think, 14 days away from kickoff. We're 16 days away from kickoff. We're 2 weeks away. If you guys want to have the post-game video review with me, Jordan, and John, make sure you guys go to patreon.com and sign up, because that is going to be only place you can get it. Other than that, you will have to wait till Wednesday. Okay, so let's get into some things. So lots of different things going on. Training camp is huge right now. Lots of big news coming out. Jacob Martin has arrived. We'll save that for when Jordan gets here for questions and answers. Kiki, what's going on there? I think this is a story that needs to be talked about. So now he has an ankle injury,
stress fracture.
Now there seems to be, some issues with injury. It's weird how those came up. Is there trade rumors? Is it, what is it? I can tell you this: if it was trade rumors, I don't believe they would say stress fracture. I think it would be like a hamstring or a soft tissue injury. I find it strange that it's a stress fracture. Kiki's had a solid camp, has gotten praise from Bill O'Brien. Has been, playing on special teams. I don't know what's going on with Kiki.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be the injury. For him to miss, I think he's up to 5 days in a row. They don't have to be as forthright with injuries at this year's camp as in years past. Well, maybe it's not even necessarily. It's just the way the camp is isolated. So everybody noticed that he wasn't out there. It's not like we're getting ready for a preseason game and people are going to ask if he's going to play or anything like that. It's just like, hey, why isn't he playing? Why isn't he practicing today? Is he on a veterans rest day? Because they're doing shifts with what guys are resting, what guys are playing, and it's pretty detailed. Especially if you're a veteran player, they're giving you more and more time off. Now, Kiki, granted, he's going into year 3. He needs practice. But him having a stress fracture in his foot absolutely makes the most sense. It doesn't sound like it's a fake story. It doesn't sound like it's a cover-up story. This is something that's going to get him IR'd. It's going to give DeAndre Carter enough time to make a case for him, whether or not he can stay on the roster. And then about halfway through the season, Kiki's foot will be better, and either he'll be back or Carter will have solidified himself. It just gives him extra time to figure this out, is my guess. Just based on what the guys can do. Because I think Kiki was going to come back. I think Kiki was going to take his Carter's role as the punt returner. He just has way more upside as a receiver, even for all the bonehead plays that he made last year. Remember, Carter made some pretty bonehead plays as a receiver, as a returner as well. I don't care if he was top 5 in yards returned. That really doesn't matter as much anymore. It's what does he do that doesn't cost us games that really matters.
Yeah, it's funny. I heard on 610. I don't listen as much as I used to. As I think Sean and Seth are great, and then outside of that, like 610 is just most of Houston radio is that way. Outside of
all the good ones leave. I don't get it.
Lance and John are great, but they're only on in the morning. But Clint Sterner, who used to play football, which you'd be shocked by the way that he approaches the game, but he talks about
he was a quarterback at Arkansas. Let's quantify that a little bit.
Yeah, and then he played for the Cowboys, as a backup. I think he played like 2 games, but and not to diminish that in any way, but he was talking about hot reads and assignments as a slot receiver, and he says he doesn't think that Kiki has an issue playing slot, and that he understands his assignments and his blocks and things of that nature. And it's like, dude, that's not what the film shows. Like, the film shows he actually did not understand assignments, did not know when he was responsible to pick up blocks and blitzes and things of that nature. And that's what led to what happened last year. So, I don't know. It's just interesting to hear. Kiki has had issues and outside of injury, it really has been, and there is a lot of responsibility when it comes to the slot position, specifically in this scheme. This isn't line up and run a slant.
And specifically with Kiki, because they ask him to run a lot more vertical than most slot receivers are asked to do. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to throw that out there.
No, yeah. I mean, a slot wide receiver in this scheme is totally different than just, the 49ers or the Green Bay Packers or things of that nature. So I find it strange that a quarterback a former player would say something similar like that. But, just kind of comes with the territory. We've seen former players say much crazier things than that. So, but yeah, I mean, with Kiki, I know Pat says that the Niners are interested. I mean, I think I've been saying that for 2 years now. Whenever Wes left, makes the most sense for sure. But I mean, there's a spot for Kiki, but there's also not a spot for Kiki. Like, especially if he's not like. There's been a lot of good questions about, training camp and then not having preseason games. Like, you really can't see what you have in a returner in practice and training camp, but you really can in preseason games. Like, that's one of the bigger things about preseason games is you're able to really see what special teams is able to do, specifically on returns. And you're not able to see that this year. So I don't know. I don't know what Kiki could or couldn't do, or will he make the team? I wouldn't be surprised if he's traded, but if there's a stress fracture, I just don't see it being possible, and I think he just gets cut.
I think that a stress fracture, especially since he was trying to push through it, is going to allow him to stay on the roster longer than it would otherwise. I think that his ceiling is still too high to just get nothing for him.
Yeah.
However, I mean, it's still a numbers game, especially at receiver, especially right now on this team at receiver. Wes Welker was his translator because you look at his rookie year and Kiki knew exactly where to be. When he was healthy, granted, he wasn't healthy that often, he was always where he was supposed to be. And that's why he had these games with double-digit receptions. However, he was hurt. He was hurt. And then last year, I think a little bit of it maybe was him buying too much into it and trying to do too much. And once that happened, he did bonehead plays. Every game that he started, we lost. And there's a reason for it. Like normally when you say something say something like that, you're like, "Oh, that's a crazy coincidence." But if you actually break down the film, like football, we kind of talk about when things start to snowball, they snowball and they snowball badly. Look at the Broncos game where he fumbled right away. Look at a couple of the missed blocks in the Colts game. He is a talented player that has a great work ethic from what people outside the organization have said. However, he has difficulty with the mental part. And I think that was entirely because Wes was his translator. Wes was able to say, this is what you did at Texas Tech. This is how you apply it now in the NFL. And once that was gone, it has really hurt him more so than it's hurt any other player.
Yeah, no, fair. All right, let's move on. So, John Reed, according to Bill O'Brien, which I'm going to be honest, the fact that I heard him just say this today was somewhat shocking. One, given how he is never impressed by rookies, their rookie year, and then two, the season that we're in and how he has diminished verbally the impact a rookie can have on the season and how hard of a year it's going to be for them. But John Reed is having the best rookie camp far and away. I don't think this is surprising to many, as
not if you listen to us.
I think John Reed has shown that is, that's kind of who he is. It's going to be very interesting to see what this cornerback group looks like. Aaron Reese says that Lonnie Johnson is pushing to take Gary and Conley's spot this year. Insane. I think Roby will be in the slot and Lonnie and Conley will be on the outside, but whatever. I could be wrong. I'm
actually going to bet money that Lonnie Johnson will be the tight end killer. How they eased AJ Boye,
I agree,
into the rotation. That'll be Lonnie's job for a little while, especially as physical as he is.
I agree.
And then you look at Reed, who has been just apparently balling out. And I told you he would. So you've got that depth that really changes our secondary. All of a sudden, it goes from being a position of weakness to, if not necessarily strength, to at least an area that has a lot of depth that people can rotate in and out and they can stay fresh and they're not gonna run them ragged. Part of what the Chiefs were able to do to a lot of teams, including us, is you get so many guys that are fast that you just wear out their secondary. We may, and I'll argue otherwise because I think Conley and Roby have the potential to be stars. But you can argue, even if you take the national take, that we have a mediocre secondary. Well, if we have a mediocre secondary with a lot of depth, that's better than a lot of teams that have a top-heavy secondary because they can't get ran out of town.
Yeah, I mean, John Reed, look, fighter, somebody that we need in the slot. While he is having a stellar camp, I don't want us to get too excited because it's going to be hard for him to really make an impact and come in early, just given, the other players on the team. Vernon Hargreaves has been getting a lot of praise as well. We also don't know what the depth chart is going to look like in corner. Is Roby going to be outside? That's where it changes for John Reed and Vernon Hargreaves. If Roby is outside and it's Roby and Lonnie or Roby and Conley, then Lonnie would come in as the third cornerback in a dime set, and we would have, John Reeder, Vernon Hargraves as a slot corner. So,
well, we may end up going in situations where Lonnie allows us to essentially go with one safety because he's big enough that he'll still be able to support. So it's an interesting rotation. I think that the biggest thing is there's more depth and there won't be a noticeable drop off. And it's not guys that are going to turn into burnt toast when they're out there. Even if they're not necessarily the best, they're not going to get toasted.
Yeah. Hey, real quick. First of all, it's Austin Tucker from our Discord. Thanks for showing up. We have an amazing Discord, guys. And during the off season, it's not like a killer, but man, when the season ramps up, I don't know if there's another place you want to be as far as having your Texans conversations. So make sure you guys go to the website and click the Discord link. It's an awesome Discord. And yes, make sure you guys all stay safe tomorrow, next few days, everything with going on with the hurricanes and things of that nature. Also, one last thing before we get into another topic. Where are all the Rockets fans that were talking so much mess? After the Lakers lost game 1, those Rockets were coming at Laker fans extremely quick. And my, oh my, how the tables have turned, up 3-1 while scoring 81 points in the first half yesterday with AD out for 3 quarters.
Fast forward. Fast forward.
Where
Where's the fast forward button?
Where are the Rocket fans?
Where's the fast forward button? I'm trying to find that.
How dare James Harden wear a Kobe t-shirt? James Harden should never wear a Kobe t-shirt. He is a disgrace. Just a total disgrace. Anyways, all right. I just thought I'd get my licks in while I could. All right. Anything else out of camp excited? So obviously Kahale is he kind of, he had a day today. We'll talk more about that day later on as we talk about the tight ends. I think there's Bradley Roby's having an amazing camp. Jacob Martin is having an amazing camp. We're not hearing a lot about Gary Conley. I don't know what's going on. I'm starting to wonder that are they starting to? God, I really hope this isn't the case, but are they starting to minimize his role in hopes of a cheaper contract, or because there's a good chance he won't be here next season and they're trying to? If that's the case, I'm going to be super.
He's a veteran coming off ankle surgery. They've shown some clips out there with him getting some good breakups, but I think that they're just what was the term from basketball? Load management.
Hey, that's fine if that's the case.
When the season starts, the best guys will be out there, and Conley's going to be out there. There's no way he can't be.
Yeah.
Even with all the depth we've talked about, his experience, his skill set, and his ability is going to get him on the field. I wouldn't worry too much about camp. However, I do have one thing to ask you. Is this a cause for concern or a thing to be excited about? Apparently, our offensive line looks fantastic.
I'm going to be honest, and not to be that guy, but this is what I expected our offensive line to look good this year.
Well, the reason I phrase it is it a cause for concern? Because we had gone into training camp saying that our number one worry was pass rush. And to hear that our offensive line is doing fantastic when we're worried about can we rush the passer? I mean, am I overthinking this? Tell me I'm overthinking this.
Oh, no. The pass rush is definitely an issue. But iron sharpens iron. And, if they're going to go up against it, that's great. Ross Blacklock's having a good camp. He likes the scheme. He likes the way he's going to be utilized. He's going up against Nick Martin. JJ's not practicing a lot. So, all the other guys are getting reps. The only real thing we're hearing is Jacob Martin is getting in the backfield quite a bit. We're not hearing Whitney's name a lot. We're not hearing anything about B-Max since last week. So, yeah, either our offensive line really took a massive step or our pass rush really is exactly what we thought it was. But you also got to remember, in training camp, you're not going to see a lot of those, exotic scheme blitzes and things of that nature, right? It's more of lineup, like technique, get hit, pads, just get into football shape. You're not going to see a lot of those schemes. Those are more in the individual position group rooms when they're discussing film and looking at things. So I don't know if I have like a cause for concern regarding the pass rush. Also, with 99 on the field, like things change for that pass rush. So it's going to open things up, for whether it be a Menahue, Whitney, Jacob. So I mean, sure. Look, we know this defense is not going to be good week 1. We know that. We know that. We're gonna have to go out.
We're well aware of that. It's going to be a shootout week 1. Yep.
So yeah, I mean that's just my thoughts.
You didn't make me feel any better. The other thing that was kind of thrown out there is Ross Blacklock was talking about how Weaver wants them to attack the gaps, which kind of would have been great information when we talked about it last week. That scheme means that we're going to have. It probably won't be a 4-3 with the way our personnel is, but kind of that's the kind of the mentality that they're going to have. They're not looking for. It's interesting because we're not asking our defensive linemen anymore to really take care of the run. They're going to be more concerned with getting to the passer. So that'll be very, very interesting.
Yeah. Look, it's just going to take some time. It's going to take some time to understand what we have on defense. It's going to take some time for the defense to get ramped up. It's going to take time to see what that pass rush can do. But, the good point that was pointed out here is just the fact that JJ isn't on the field. And, once JJ's on the field, that's kind of the game changer. I mean, like I said last week, Zach talked about how shocked he was when he threw on the film for the first 7 games of last year. So you got to hope that JJ can still be that guy that he was last year, and it be him for 16 weeks. It's so hard to count on now because you haven't seen it in so long. And while he did do it in 18, he also wasn't really himself in 18.
We'll see. He's unfortunately the linchpin that our pass rush is built around. Not unfortunately, because when he's healthy and he's out there, there's not a force on this earth like JJ Watt. But will he be healthy? Will he be out there?
Yeah. All right, let's get to our position group reviews. We'll start with the running backs. So, I mean, we've talked a lot about David Johnson. He's gotten a ton of praise in training camp. People say he looks motivated. He basically did another piece with Tyler Dunn, very similar to what me and David Johnson did. Tyler Dunn's just probably the best writer, and he's probably the best creative writer in sports media, the way that he writes his pieces. And went at the blue check marks and things of that nature regarding the trade. He seems motivated. He is motivated. I know he is. I think that David is going to have a solid year. It's hard though, because not just because of the trade, but like in the sense of like what we gave up, right? Like, I don't know how to really put it into words. There's nothing he can do to make the people feel better about him unless he has 2,000 all-purpose yards. Like if he has 1,100 yards rushing and 300 yards passing or receiving, it's going to be still, I don't think people are going to give him the props that he deserves. He's going to be fighting a uphill battle, and I don't know if people are going to be able to do it. I really like David Johnson. I think he should have a good year. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what we're supposed to do. Like, are we going to predict stats? Because I just don't think that's just not what we do.
No.
I think he'll be productive though.
Yeah, we've beat this horse until it's dead. David Johnson has the potential to be an absolute game changer at running back. It's tough, the situation that he's in, because he can't, even if he's a Pro Bowler, even if he's all NFL, people are gonna still judge him based on how Hop does out in Arizona. So if Hop goes out to Arizona and just has a mediocre season, and Johnson comes out here and takes us all the way to the AFC Championship or better, people will be happy, and that's about it. If Hop is in Arizona and he puts up a number one type receiver season again, and we go to the AFC Championship, people are still going to judge Johnson, and that's absolutely not fair. Please remember that David Johnson didn't control the trade. He didn't control who he was traded for. We just know that if he's healthy and as good as he looks at camp, if he keeps that up, we'll have the best running back we've had since Arian Foster. And that's something to be excited about. Leading into Duke Johnson, the thing that I thought was very, very interesting is how many reports out of camp have said they have never seen this many two-back sets from the Texans, especially since Bill O'Brien's been here. I'm sorry, Jay Sinister, I'm going to steal your comment a little bit. I am low-key excited to see both Johnsons in the backfield at the same time. And that's not just an ad for the shirt. James, are you muted?
Oh, there we go. The thing about Duke and David is the fact that, like, David isn't a great route runner. Duke is a great route runner. Like, David has been schemed open in the past, right? When you combine those two of a schemed open wide running back and a running back who can run great routes and both have great hands, it's like, man, like, what are you going to do? There isn't a linebacking core in the league that's going to be able to cover, both of them. And it's going to be very hard if you're bringing a safety down, given our deep threats on the outside with Will Fuller and Brandon Cook. So if you bring a safety in the box to cover one of the running backs, that leaves your corner one-on-one with a wide receiver. There's just a lot of like different dynamics that come into play when it comes to these two specific running backs. And good things happen when Duke has the ball. And I don't want that to be something that goes away. He still needs to be a part of the offense. He still needs to have his production. He still needs to have his catches. He still needs to have his snaps. He still needs to run the ball. Duke does not need to primarily be our receiving back. He needs to be able to do it all.
Put this in perspective for Duke Johnson. He was number 2 out of all positions in expected yards per touch. That's a guy that needs the ball in his hands more. Part of it, I think, last year is maybe they weren't able to implement him as much as they wanted into the offense because they got him so late in training camp. That fingers crossed, that's part of why his usage wasn't where we wanted it to be. The second thing is I think that once the offensive staff sat down and did their year-end review on film, they'll notice what everybody else noticed. Only good things happen when Duke touches the ball. So if they didn't see that, this talk about them having 2 running backs in the backfield at the same time wouldn't be happening. They wouldn't have designed these formations for them. You just don't see it. And again, Duke Johnson just needs to touch the ball more. That's it. End of story. The next thing that came out was Buddy Howell has apparently the number 3 running back position locked down.
I mean, that makes sense. I think that's what we predicted at the beginning of the season. A guy who's been on the team for the last 2 years, never really got meaningful snaps in the regular season, showed that he was capable of, in preseason last year, that he could, he can run when he's given them a chance. And then also just a special teams guy he's always on the field. He's always making an impact on special teams. And Karan Higdon, for 2 straight seasons, is having fumbling issues. Like, this was happening last preseason with Karan Higdon, and it's happening again this preseason or this offseason, training camp, whatever. Like, Karan Higdon can't hold on to the ball. Buddy Howell's never shown that issue. Add to the fact that he's great on special teams. We lost, Brad Seeley. So you're going to keep Buddy. That's just the way it works. And
if you want to see Buddy Howell's career path, go look up Brandon Bolden for the New England Patriots. Key special teams guy that stuck around. I think he's like an 8-year vet at this point. Always on the team because of special teams, and he was more than adequate as an emergency running back. That's Buddy Howell. That's what they're turning him into. He's there primarily for special teams, but based on what we've seen him do during the preseason, if he needs to be an emergency running back, I think we'll be okay for a game or two. Hopefully, not much longer than that. But if we need somebody in a pinch to kind of give one of the guys a breather, then he should be all right.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to spend too much time talking about the third running back, and not that Buddy doesn't deserve it, but it's just I think David and Duke are going to. I mean, they're going to be the primary backs. It'll be
Right. I just wanted to touch on that because it was a noticeable. It was news that Bill O'Brien came out and said that.
For sure.
Do we want to talk about Scotty Phillips at all?
No.
And then Cullen Gillespie, do we want to put him with the running backs or the tight ends? Because he's very, very intriguing on what they're planning on doing with him this year.
Yeah, I think both. I mean, he looks to be the guy that's going to get some carries. He's going to get some receiving yards. He's going to probably line up at tight end occasionally, and he's great on special teams. So, and David Johnson loves running behind a fullback. So, yeah, I mean, I love Cullen, and also just like one of those dudes. I mean, grew up here, great dude. Like outside of being an Aggies, awesome.
Yeah, Cullen Gillespie, the positions that he has been spotted at training camp is fullback, H-back, tight end, flex tight end, and of course special teams. And apparently there was a rumor that he lined up once at linebacker. I cannot confirm or deny that, but based on everything else I'm hearing about him, that makes absolute sense. When they drafted Gillespie, one of the things that they talked about was he looks like he would be the new breed fullback. He's going to be able to block, and he showed that he could run block a little bit better than others against Buffalo. If you noticed, he was out there a lot more towards the end of the game, and he laid on. There's a touchdown that does not happen if Gillespie is not out there. Like you can tell when somebody knows how to block and gets out there and blocks, and that's Cullen. And he's a guy that don't get excited about him for fantasy. Like it'll be nothing like that. However, we're gonna notice him, and I think that as a fan favorite and just guys that watch the football game. Granted, I love fantasy football, so don't take this wrong if you're a big fantasy player. But the guys that really appreciate the guys that do all the little things, you're gonna love Cullen Gillespie. He's gonna be one of the fan favorites.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, let's get to.
So maybe he really did line up at linebacker. Somebody wasn't just blowing smoke. He played in college.
He played linebacker in college. So yeah, he didn't just line up. I think the first 2 years at A&M he played linebacker and then was switched over to fullback. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's what it was. Put it in the comments. All right, let's get to the tight ends. I think that's why everybody's here. We got about 15 minutes before Jordan joins. All right. So let's start with where we rank them. Let's start with depth chart in our mind. Are we both in agreement Jordan Akins is tight end 1 right now?
It depends.
Okay.
Passing downs, I believe so. However, this isn't a dig against Jordan, but the Bills game showed why Cullen Gillespie was still around and Jordan Akins wasn't able to take over that H-back role. He can't block as well as he needs to. Now, maybe that's changed. We've talked about how playing a tight end, it takes 3 years to really know the position. It's one of the physical skills required for a tight end is one of the most difficult things to learn in the NFL. They've got to play tackle essentially because they get lined up on purpose by defensive coordinators will put their best pass rusher against the tight end whenever they can. And then they've also got to learn all the routes of a wide receiver, especially in a modern day offense that really wants to include tight ends in the passing game. So it's a lot to take in. There's a lot of physical skills. And Akins, if he was to profile, he profiles closer to like Jimmy Graham or Jordan Reed. These were tight ends in name only. They didn't block. They never played H-back, which was, if you kind of put them up behind the line and shift them over to the side. They just don't block. They're a receiver. They're just a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage than other receivers. That's Jordan Akins right now. Now, he's a very capable at that. He led the Texans in yards of separation. He led the Texans in yak. And he was better than a lot of the receivers in catch rate. So he's a very talented receiver. However, he can't really block. But here's the problem. There's this narrative out there that Darren Fells is a great blocker. He's really not either. He's just a big guy. Now, Darren Fells, he's really great at posting up and catching the ball. He's a safe target. He's gonna put his booty between him and the defender, and he's gonna catch the ball. And he's really, really good at that. And the coaches seem to have bought into this narrative that he can be that he profiles as the best blocking tight end, at least last year. So that's where you kind of have a 1A, 1B. So based on last year with Fells and his blocking, you would assume that he's still going to be in there on downs they expect to run, and when they want the other team to think that they might run. If it's pure passing, we're from behind, we're just going to air it out, then Akins definitely is tight end one. I fully expect Jordan Akins to have wide receiver like numbers at the end of the season. I'm not talking like 1,000 yards. I'm talking like 700 yards and multiple touchdowns. Like, he's a guy that a couple of weeks you're going to stream a tight end. You're going to be very happy that you do it. He's not going to be a superstar, but he's going to be a superstar in the hearts of Houston because he's going to be another one of those guys that you just appreciate all the little things that he does, but the volume just won't be there for him.
Yeah, I think, look, when it comes to the tight ends, you have to understand the different roles and responsibilities, right? And whether Akins is a blocking, he's not a blocking tight end, he's a receiving tight end. You still have to throw him out there to block occasionally. He will be out there to block because you can't just line up, two blocking tight ends and expect the defense to not have an idea of what you're trying to accomplish. Sure, you can surprise him and throw it to the guy, but with Akins, he's just when he's in space and open, he has the ability to do things that we haven't seen yet from any of our other tight ends to be able to create yak. On top of that, he's just a freak athlete as well. And there's a lot of talk about Kahale and what he did in college and a water polo player and things of that nature. We're also talking about Jordan Akins, who could have went pro playing baseball. So he's a freak athlete as well. Third year, he's 28, so he's on the older side, so he's more mature. I just think that what Akins can do with the ball in his hand and his route running is extremely good when you look at how long he's been in the league and how long he's been playing tight end. Also on film last year, you just see him open a lot. He's open a ton and just isn't looked at. And, Deshaun just didn't see him, or he was looking at DeAndre. I just think that, I just think Akins is the best tight end on this team right now. And then I think it's followed up by Darren Fells, Jordan Thomas, and Kahale Waring. Darren Fells is a red zone monster. Box out basketball player, ability to get open in the red zone. He can just create separation with his size and physicality. And there's a reason why he had, what was it? I think seven touchdowns last year. I think he tied Owen Daniels' record for most touchdowns by a tight end for the Texans. So that's my thought with Darren Fells. And he's also our best blocker. It's not saying much, but he's our best blocker. Jordan Thomas is a guy that his rookie year, everybody fell in love with because they saw the true upside and the raw ability he had. Last year he got hurt and we just weren't able to see it. And then when he came back, he didn't look like the same player. This year,
he's 277 pounds and he runs a 4.6.
Yeah.
There's reasons to be excited about him. It's not unwarranted. You don't have those physical skills, and he has shown the ability. He played wide receiver in college. Like, he has the ability to catch the ball.
Yeah, and so I guess what I'm trying to say is, now he's fully healthy and he's having the best camp that he's had so far as a pro. Not to diminish what Kahale did in one day at training camp, but as far as consecutive days and consistency, which is something the coach has preached since he entered NRG Stadium 6 years ago is consistency is key, and that's what he looks for. Jordan Thomas is doing that now. And he's also, Bill O'Brien's seen what Jordan Thomas is capable of and knows that injuries played a part. I like Jordan Thomas a lot too. I'm fine with whatever honestly, those 3 tight ends I'm good with. I'm fine with. If you can add another great tight end or potentially great tight end in Holly Waring, awesome. These clips today, they look great. They look great, but also look who threw that first touchdown. Look, that was AJ McCarron. If this beast is so good, there's a reason why he's playing with the backup quarterback.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I'm going to kind of explain the Collie Warren hype a little bit. Granted, if you listen to us, you probably understand it. Collie Warren, according to a lot of scouts, coming in right now would be the best blocking tight end on the Texans. However, he has the athleticism to apparently grow into a pass catcher. Of the guys we have on roster, both Akins and Thomas need to learn how to block. They already know how to catch. Whereas Warren already knows how to block, and he looks athletic enough to catch. If he can do both, catch and block, he will be on the field enough to actually make a difference. And that's what you're kind of looking for in fantasy football. Kahali Warren has the potential to be the most fantasy consistently relevant tight end that the Texans have had for a long time. However, that doesn't necessarily mean he's the best tight end on the Texans. There's a lot of little jobs that they are asked to do. And if he comes in and he is legitimately the best blocking tight end, then Darren Fells has to watch out because that's supposed to be Darren's job. And we love Darren. Don't get us wrong, but he's not as good of a blocker as he's made out to be as the left tackle. He looks like the left tackle, but he looks like a basketball player out there sometimes, which is great when you're throwing the ball to him. But when you need a tight end that can block, we've got a little bit of work to do. So if Warren is legitimate, because here's the other problem. We've never seen Warren play. We've never seen him play against NFLers. Even the practice that we've seen is it's practice at training camp. And I know that they're supposed to be out there and they're supposed to have that same intensity, but there's a reason why blocking in tackling and the physicality of the NFL is always so rusty at the beginning of the season. You can't fake that. It's either all or nothing. And when they're not going all out and they're still trying and they're just going through the motions. It's not that same extra adrenaline as it is during a game. So I can't be bought in on the fact that Warren, who's only played football for 3 years, 4 years, is the best blocking tight end on the team. He has the potential to be, and I hope he is. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing more than I would like than to have an Owen Daniels that's a better blocker. There's nothing more that I would like to have a baby Kelsey or a baby Gronk or all these crazy things that he's been thrown around, or the first ever Kahali Warren. Yeah, his size and his speed and his ability to jump, his shuffle speed, he blew all those tests out of the water. There's a reason why he went in the 3rd round. However, he's still a tight end. And pretty much to put a bow on it, as I would say, manage your expectations for this year. He's not gonna blow you away this year. It's always year 3. It takes 3 years for a tight end to click. Even Travis Kelce, it wasn't until his 3rd year. Very, very rarely do they click beforehand. And with him, especially because he got IR'd for his entire first year, it's not going to be this year. Don't throw him under the bus this year when he's not. Don't expect him to ascend to tight end 1 this year, though. If he does it this year, then he is absolutely something special.
Well, I also think there's, we've also seen recently that rookie tight ends come in and they do extremely well. They come in, they like Mark Andrews, basically all 3 tight ends in Baltimore last year and the year before.
Well, Mark Andrews was different. He was brought in to be a pass catcher. He wasn't asked to block. He was asked to do one job.
No, that's fine, but they're still producing.
Right.
None of our tight ends have produced at that level. So you can say what he was asked to do or not to do. He still came in and had pretty much a Pro Bowl year at tight end his rookie year. Kahali Kahale, I get asked this a lot. Why do I hate Kahale? I don't hate Kahale. If you go back and listen to the draft of last year, I was a big fan of Kahale. I really like Kahale. But here's the thing. We haven't seen anything yet. Like, you're seeing clips. You see him go up against, I believe, Michael Thomas and grab a touchdown. Like, all great things. Those are things you want to see. But until I see it against real competition, I don't really care. Also, keep in mind, this guy has not been available through training camp until 2 days ago. So, like, just slow down. That's all I'm asking. I want to see it because the freak that he is as an athlete is up there. Like, Cody brought up, where did Cody say? Cody brought this up. I played water polo. I grew up in Southern California. I played water polo my freshman and sophomore year. There is not a tougher sport out there in high school outside of football than water polo. Just so you guys understand, anything underwater is legal. So to put that in terms, your balls will get grabbed and yanked and pulled along with everything else, and kicking and punching and all these nut things. It literally nut things. Like, if you don't, go look up water polo. It is a very, very physical sport. Like, if you haven't tried to tread water for 10 minutes by yourself, they do it for 45. Like, it's a real sport. Like, it's a very physical sport. So he has all that stuff that's going with him. But you have to see it on the field when it matters. I don't want to see it on training camp. And so far to this point, he just hasn't been available. And that, last year, redshirted 3 great tight ends. Hard for him to crack that. It's going to be very similar this year.
Yeah, and even to add to what James was saying, yeah, he's a workout warrior, great combine. He played for a team in college that ran the ball predominantly. That's why he got so good at blocking. We all are in agreement. We think that he has the highest ceiling, that if any of our guys have the chance to become something absolutely, truly superstar special, it's probably Warring. But we've already got 2 guys that have shown quite a bit. Jordan Akins, I mean, his season last year was criminally underrated. And, if we work out and Warren, let's say Warren does ascend to tight end 1 or tight end 1.1A with Akins on the other side, then we're in really, really good shape and we'll all be happy for it. It's just manage your expectations. Yes, the passes today looked absolutely fantastic. It shows the type of potential he has. Now let's just see him out there on the field.
Yep, agreed. All right. Trying to think. That's all our tight ends. Cool. Let's bring in Jordan for question and answers.
What is up, guys? How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. As you probably know, I've been pretty busy. Feel bad for that, but should be cooling down a little bit, hopefully.
Cool. Well, question and answers. I know we have a lot of questions. I guess first, before we do that, I don't want to take too much of your time, but a little bit about training camp. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about a particular number 54.
Oh.
And it's great to hear. What are your thoughts so far?
It made my day. I think it was yesterday, was it? That it was just all praise from everyone. Bill O'Brien doesn't praise guys like that, especially like non-stars, if that kind of makes sense. Like, he does not talk very highly of people like that. And he had a lot to say about Jacob Martin, the GOATs. And the biggest thing that surprised me, because he talked about his athleticism, his skill, he can line up wherever. That's all great. We all know that. But the biggest thing for me is the question we all want answered is he going to play more? And he said it. He's going to play a lot more for us this season. And that's huge. That's very huge. He's up to 247, which is typically where we like our 3-4 outside linebackers to be, around 247, 255 plus, so they can play the run well. And so with those numbers, there's no reason why he can't start over Brendan Scarlett, as long as the run defense. So I'm really excited about everything he said. It definitely made my day, and I'm excited to see it on the field, man. Very excited.
Let's talk a little bit about Kahale Waring and your thoughts.
Yeah, so just listen to what you guys have been saying. You're right. Like, training camp highlights, they're cool. But of course, like, the Texans PR team, they're not going to show like the drops. They're not going to show his bad plays. Of course, they're going to show the plays where he looks like damn Randy Moss over our DBs, right? So yes, it's great to see the flashes and to say, hey, he's got a good catch radius, he's got good vertical, cool, he could be something, but let's pump the brakes on the fact that he's going to be our breakout star, tight end one, screw Jordan Akins, screw Darren Fells. Like, we haven't seen a single NFL snap out of this dude. And just like how Bill O'Brien doesn't trust rookies, he's not going to trust Kahale Warren because he's basically a rookie. He redshirted his rookie year. He's now basically a rookie. So I just can't see him getting legitimate snaps. But it's good to see for the future because Fells is getting up there. And Akins, as much as we love him, he's even 28 too. So keeping him, and it's going to be him and either one of Thomas or Waring for the future. So it's good to have. It's a good problem to have talented guys in your tight end room.
Yep, agreed. All right, let's get to some questions.
If y'all are in YouTube. Okay, questions from my Twitter. First one comes from @Bill O'Brien. His new like handle though is @Fire Mike D'Antoni.
Oh,
Rockets ain't looking too good. Oof. Oof.
Oh, you should have heard me earlier. It's okay.
I wish I did. Oh. No taking the high road. No.
Oh no! The smoke they were sending our way.
Exactly.
Especially Cody.
Oh, Cody. You might. I'm surprised he sat through all of it.
Oh my god!
All right. So he asks, how have the rookies looked in camp, and will any of them get the chance to start? James, how do you feel about the rookies?
Yeah, so Ross Blacklock, chance to start. Will it be immediate? I'm not sure. I think we'll see a rotation of guys to see who kind of get a feel for things. He's going to be pushed into, a starting role. You don't take a player of his ability. It was very good to hear kind of what he talked about specifically with the scheme today and how he likes it so much better because it gives him a little bit more freedom and ability to push the pocket and create a pass rush on the interior. So I think Ross has a chance. I know John Reed has had a lot of praise and he's the killer of camp. And I do believe that those are true statements. I do think John Reed probably is having the best camp out of all the rookies. I just think that it's going to be very hard for him to earn a starting role over the three corners that we have, right? Like, I just don't know, especially if Roby does end up playing in the slot. So Jonathan Grenard, we're not hearing a lot about him. We're not hearing a lot about him at all. And we kind of knew that, though. We kind of knew that he's in a crowded room, and he's going to have to stand out on special teams and in training camp to be able to get the opportunity to do the things that he needs to do. And so if I had to pick two, it would be Ross and John Reed. We know Isaiah, while he does have the potential, likely going to be a very similar season to Kahale last year with Isaiah Coulter.
For sure. John, anything to add?
And Charlie Heck. Bleh.
I mean, yeah. James kind of hit on it. We've got great performances out of John Reed. We've apparently got great performances out of Isaiah Coulter. And
okay.
Sorry. We've got great performances out of two rookies that we've definitely heard about. Grenard is apparently doing all right. Blacklock's apparently doing all right. So, I mean, nothing really to add. What sucks about this training camp is I miss preseason because we don't get to actually see them. We don't get to see what they've actually learned. And Reed was my guy, so of course I'm going to throw that out there because I'm excited about it. But other than that, of course they're going to say positive things. It's Bill O'Brien. The one thing, though, I will say is he doesn't smoke up players' asses. If they're doing well, he'll say it. If they're not doing well, he'll say it as well. So if he's said good things in his comments and it's not coming from Weaver or something like that, you can at least believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So that's good for the rookies. Moving on from @Daniel Blake Hill. He says, with Chiefs players seemingly dropping like flies, how are you all feeling headed towards week 1? John, how do you feel
like
about Chiefs?
I do not like it. If we go out and they have half their roster not playing for whatever reason or the other.
Excuses.
They have 2 players not playing that should be playing. It's going to be an excuse. And they're going to try and take it away from us. So I'd rather see them full strength. I'd rather see them hungry. And y'all are really pushing my buttons tonight. As if it's not painful enough to be a Rockets fan. Like, seriously. No, I want the Chiefs at full strength. If it's a Super Bowl hangover or whatnot, If we get that win with them full strength, at least that's all we have to hear is a Super Bowl hangover. If they are missing one key player, they're not going to talk about the Texans. They're going to talk about if so-and-so was in this game, the Texans don't win, blah, 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 blah.
So it sounds like a rocket narrative, right? Excuses,
Oh.
excuses, things, couldn't do it this year because of this, couldn't do it this year because of this, couldn't do it this year because we ran into Dennis Schroeder and Chris Paul at the age of 38. So, it's just kind of the Houston thing, seems like. Anyways, sorry, go ahead. Last one for the night.
Oh. All right. Again from Daniel Blake Hill, great friend of the pod, always asks great questions. He said, give me the reasons Houston will go all the way this. I couldn't hear what you said. I'm sorry.
He just is a great team.
He says, give me the reasons. Am I lagging behind? I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, you are.
All right. Give me the reasons Houston will go all the way this year. Now give me the reasons why they won't even make the playoffs. So kind of both sides of the spectrum, James.
All the way this year. Why they will. You have Deshaun Watson at quarterback. So Deshaun Watson playing quarterback is always going to be a plus. And he's going to take another step in his development, which is always key. So, if you're banking on anything, that's what you would bank on is Deshaun Watson. Why we won't. Injuries. I mean, that's really the only thing I can say. I don't know if there's any other reason. And Jordan, you are lagging like crazy.
This house Wi-Fi is not nice. Trying to fix things, but
it's bad. It's bad. We'll let you get to your next question in case you drop.
I'll get to you guys' next question. From Daniel Blake Hill again, Deshaun Watson goes down. Are you preparing to carry?
And he's gone.
And we lost him.
All right, let's
Are we still going?
So, are we going to be a run first offense or air assault since we signed the Archer? What do you think?
I think it's going to be a good balance. I mean, Jordan broke down an article and showed that we didn't run as often on first down as people thought. It just looked like we did. I think it was like 58% of the time we threw. So I think we're going to be a good combination. I wouldn't be surprised if it's very similar to what we saw last year. And I think it could be anything that we need it to be. I think we have the roster on offense and the skill set of our players to be able to either run or throw.
I think that the difference with offensive coordinator is I think Tim Kelly may actually embrace the new NFL maxim that you run to throw. I think that at the end of the season, the numbers are going to come out pretty balanced. We'll have we'll end up having a pretty good balance if you look at the numbers, but throughout the season, we will actually be very bullish on our passing game, and we'll feel as though it is setting up our running game.
The comments are great, Jordan. You've given.
God.
We really appreciate it. I don't even know if you want to run through the rest of the questions, but you've given the comment section something to run with. And also, I think you're gone again.
Hopefully, y'all can hear this. Okay, I'm gonna hit you guys with this last one from Zach Hicks, James's buddy. What is your biggest concern with the defense this year? What are you, James?
It's all pass rush. Everything comes down to the pass rush with the defense this year, in my opinion. Outside of JJ, and a lot of it just has to do with the fact that I don't expect JJ to play 16 games. If JJ plays 16 games, I don't really have a concern for this pass rush because I do think that JJ frees up other players to be able to go make plays. I think the pass rush is really the biggest concern, and it all boils down to JJ Watt. You just can't ask him to just be the only guy. And so we're going to need somebody else to step up, whether it's Jacob Martin, Whitney Merciless, Charles Omenihu, Ross Blacklock. There's guys that can do it, but will they do it?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think I'm good right now. I don't think I'm lagging too much.
No, you're not.
Okay, perfect. Okay, we're going to keep going then. I got a really good one. Where was it? Okay, this is a good one for the channel. Will we, Texans Unfiltered, ever consider doing a meetup outside of Texas? This dude, Nolan Webb, he lives in Kentucky, and he'd love to meet up for a game. Guess think that'll be a possibility.
Yeah, absolutely. We were
Oh.
planning on doing that this year. We were going to do a road trip to a game with all of the listeners. We were gonna. I think there's 6 of us in Austin, and we were gonna have some. We were gonna have some, and we were.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, we were gonna rent an RV, and we were going to drive to a away game and meet up with some of the other listeners and things of that nature. So COVID kind of put that in, in the background for right now, but it's something that we'll still entertain as we see how COVID goes. If it won't be this season, it will be future seasons. But Nolan, if you want, I'd be more than happy to do a virtual hangouts and watch a game, whatever we can do, because we really appreciate the support, and you've been one of our bigger supporters for quite some time. So you tell me, and I will definitely come to Hawaii. I'll actually be there next June. So yeah.
Awesome. All right. Run through a couple more while my Wi-Fi decides to hold up. From Michael George, he says, how do you think the season is going to play out for the Texans? And what's your take on Bill O'Brien as a GM and a head coach? John?
Season plays out. We're going to do better than the national media expects. We are going to win our division. I can say that fairly confidently unless injuries happens. That's the only thing that's going to stop it. And then the jury's still out on Bill O'Brien. I actually re-listened to the Clowney trade podcast. I don't know why I subjected myself to that, but when you listen to how we were last year regarding that trade to how we are this year regarding that trade, based on just how everything kind of played out, your opinion on it changes. So the jury is still out, and the proof is always in the wins and losses at the end of the season. If the Texans completely fall apart, if they are the team that the national media expects them to be, then Bill O'Brien deserves all the smoke. He deserves it. Now, if he comes out there and the Texans are the team we expect them to be, as guys that actually, if the Texans are actually the team that we expect them to be, as guys that actually follow the Texans, understand whether the roster moves that have been made, whether or not we agree with them or not, then I guess he's at least better than half the GMs out there.
Yeah, I'm with that as well. I think just to move on to the next one, from Lord David of House Stark, he says, do you see the Texans pursuing Earl Thomas at all? Did you guys talk about this already in the pod? No? Okay, perfect. I'll give my quick thoughts. Earl Thomas, obviously always been a really great player, one of the best safeties in the league, premium position, single high safety, very valuable, especially in our defense. But even Ravens fans will tell you that he's not the same player that he used to be with the Legion of Boom. I haven't personally watched his film, but if Ravens fans are already telling you that, that's already a good sign. The fact that he hasn't been signed now, even by Cowboys, who would love to sign him, and he wants to be there too, that should tell you another thing. Also, this fight wasn't the only reason why he was cut. There were multiple other incidents. He would always be late for meetings, for camp. There's one meeting he missed because he was washing his damn car. At least that was his excuse. So we don't know how. Basically, Earl Thomas is close to a culture cancer right now. And Bill O'Brien will have none of that. He didn't want to test the waters with AB. He's not going to test the waters with Earl Thomas because he trusts the culture that we built and the veterans that we've got. And that goes a long way. Because even what I forgot to mention is that the Ravens teammates wanted Earl gone. It wasn't the head coach. It wasn't the GM. It wasn't the owner. It was the teammates, the guys that he's playing beside. And if they can't trust him, how the hell, we can't trust him either. So it's great that he's a great player and all, but it's not worth the risk. Do you guys have anything else to add on to that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. When your own teammates are casting stones to get you off the team in a game where your team is your everything and they're your brotherhood, they're your guys, that speaks a lot to what Earl brought to the Ravens. Now, the one piece that doesn't concern me, because I think Earl still can play, I just don't know, how he would be utilized with us. I don't know if he's that single high safety anymore. I don't know if he can play that role the way he did. He hasn't been the same since his injury in Seattle. We'd like to think that he has that ability. Maybe it's a scheme thing. It all depends on, everything else that's happening with the defense. But one thing to keep an eye on, and we have been linked to him, which is what makes me think this a little bit, is that him and Deshaun share the same agent. There's a lot of times in this league where when things like this happen, it'll be like a handshake thing. Hey, I know we're negotiating a contract with Deshaun. I got a guy here that needs to be on a roster. Things like that happen. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's brought here, but I wouldn't be on the bus of doing so. I don't, given the off season that he had to, not about cheating on his wife, because that's just what athletes do, but the way that whole situation happened with the gun and all that craziness, I just don't know if that's the case. And I really hope that like my boys who manage his sneaker shop in Austin don't like kill me for it, but I just don't think it's a good fit for Earl at this point of his career.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. Next one from Marquise Grissom. He says, any update on Clowney? We get this question every week, but are we adding anyone at this point? I think this is, and Bill O'Brien even said it in a couple of press conferences ago, but this is basically the roster that we're going to go into the season with. Haven't heard anything. I don't know if you guys have heard anything, but I don't think there's anything on the Clowney side.
Nope.
All right, moving on quickly. From Sam, he says, is there any chance for a Kiki QT comeback in your eyes? So that's pretty big today because we found out the news. Like, it was kind of mysterious the last couple of days. Like, oh, why isn't Kiki at camp? Like, is there a reason? Does he have an excuse? Why isn't he practicing? Whatever. But now finally we got the news, and it's a minor. What was the specific injury again?
Stress fracture.
Yeah, stress fracture, which is never good. And in my opinion, I think they're using that to cover up that he's gone. Whether that be by trade for the 6th, 7th round pick, maybe that's the best you're going to get, or he's just going to be cut for sure, and that's it. So I think the Kiki QT train has come and gone. And the good thing is that DeAndre Carter got a lot of praise in camp today. So I think we'll be okay. I think Kiki QT, he was always someone who was kind of just like, if we got anything from him, great, but we don't need to hry on him whatsoever. So I'm not too hurt about QT.
Yeah, I agree. We talked about Kiki a lot.
Okay, perfect. I believe that is it. Why did I just lose it? Really quickly, where did it go? Yeah, I think that's it. All right. That's it for me. Thank you for all the questions.
We got ignored last week.
Thoughts on more? All right.
Anderson at running back as a high potential guy. I just think that they're set. It's not. I don't think it has anything to do with Anderson, but I also don't know a ton about him. I know people are high on him, but I find it crazy that he's also, if he is that good, why he's not on a roster. I think he was cut about 10 days ago, and he's still not on a roster.
The thing with him, so he was a super talented back out of Oklahoma. I absolutely loved him. I thought he'd probably be like mid-second round pick type of talent. But he has probably some of the worst injury history that you will ever see. Like big time injuries too. It's not just like little stuff, big time. And so that's why he's fallen so far. That's why this last injury, then people can't trust him. So as much as I would love him, Buddy Howell seems to have the running back 3 spot on lock. And what Bill O'Brien said is that it's got to be special teams. And Rodney Anderson, he's a talented dude, but he's not a special team back. He's not Buddy Howell. And I think that's okay.
If one of the Johnsons get hurt, he'll definitely be in for a workout. But let's be honest, this kid's injury history is pretty legit. He had a neck injury in college that caused him to miss an entire year. And of course, he's had an ACL injury. And that was on top of another knee injury. It just says in college, his last game of his career, he injured one knee. The last game of the preseason, he tore his ACL on the other knee. So kid's been through some stuff. He's got some talent, but with his injury history, he's a guy that will get brought in somebody mid-season. Who knows if anybody will actually see him play though.
All right. Any last questions in the chat?
Oh, we got a bunch.
Merck has an OnlyFans, I guess.
Oh, I think we hit it at the same time.
So that's interesting. No, he doesn't. It's cameo, but I just thought it was funny that was brought up. OnlyFans. Go ahead and hit the other one. How much do you will affect the team to be ready week 1 without joint practices, like any other year, considering known Bill O'Brien issues with getting the team ready? I think that's a legit question. Joint practices seem to be a thing, and ever since Bill O'Brien's been here. I don't know. Nobody can do it. So it's not like it's just the Texans who can't have joint practices. So if it's affecting this team, it's also going to affect the other teams. I don't know if it's going to be one of those things. I just think we're going to see sloppy football for 3 to 4 weeks of the season. The good news is with all of this going on, and something we didn't bring up, the COVID testing and the positive cases for NFL players since training camp has started has been super minimal. And I know Jordan and I were talking about it when this whole thing, and John too, it's going to be really hard for us to believe that the season can actually happen. But if these continue to be the positive trends that we see, and these players are taking it responsible, and they're not, Lou Williams and the guy from the Seahawks, then the team who is the most disciplined will likely be the one that goes all the way through, and it's pretty cool to see. I don't know. Any thoughts on this, you guys?
Yeah, I think, like you said, every team's got to deal with it, so I don't really factor that in. It's kind of like the NBA with the bubble. Every team's getting rusty, stuff like that. They're all on the same playing grounds. I guess from like a pure football standpoint, what you might see and how you might see it relate to on the field, it's usually tackling. That's usually like all NFL teams usually struggle to tackle in the beginning of the year because they don't have, you can't tackle in practice right now, right? And so I think we're going to see that to a bit of an extreme. But because every team is dealing with it, it's not going to be too big of an issue, I hope. Yeah, I think, do you have anything, John, or should I like this next question?
I love this next question.
This one?
No, but we can do that.
My bad.
Right.
There's 2 things I want to talk about this one. First one, I forget who reported it, but we saw the most 2 running back sets from the Texans today. And that's real interesting because Bill O'Brien, he's alluded to it. He's admitted it that they're going to be running that more. And so I'm really excited for it. Obviously, we talked about this a lot, but 2 dual threat running backs, it's going to be super fun, super hard to match up with them. And I'm excited to see what we got. We can't really speak too much on it right now. Obviously, they're also not going to release a lot of details on it, but having 2 threats like that, it's going to be big time to attack linebackers.
I agree.
All right. And then the other one, sorry, real quick, the only one about defense for the personnel and formations, I think it was in Blacklock's press conference today. He talked about how the systems from TCU and the Texans are very different. TCU, and it's the same thing that we've seen on film and scouts have seen on films at TCU, they asked him to 2-gap a lot, to kind of just hold blocks, not really make plays, just let his linebackers flow free and have them make plays. And a lot of things that he said was that he was slanting a lot. So even in pass rushing, he wasn't allowed to just penetrate and go down the field, rush upfield. So, but now he has that opportunity, and that's how Weaver wants to play. Like he's been saying, he wants this aggressive style of football, and that's where Blacklock is at his best. Yeah, he can hold double teams and let McKinney and Zach Cunningham make tackles, but he can also just split a damn double team with his pure athleticism and strength and make the tackle for loss himself. And so that's where you're going to see the real high impact stats that everyone loves. So I'm excited that we went all system towards him. And we saw early in the year that Anthony Weaver, one of his main talking points was we're going to play our players to their positions of strength. And this is exactly how you can see that happening. So I'm really excited.
Yep, I would agree. I think that was probably the biggest takeaway of the day for me. All right. It seems like O'Brien is warming up to the idea of using Lonnie as a hybrid DB. Thoughts on that? He lined up at safety some last year. He covered tight ends extremely well before he got hurt. I like this idea of him being more of a specialized, defensive back. He could play he could play safety. He can play in the box. He can cover. His coverage abilities. He looks so much more fluid than what he looked like last year. He looks like he's getting a lot lower. But I think that this will be something that we see a lot more of when it comes to Lonnie. And we saw it last year, not necessarily with Lonnie, but we saw, I think when we played the Patriots, Roby was covering the running backs out of the backfield, James White, things of that nature. I think we'll see a lot more of that stuff with Lonnie this year, given what he worked on this offseason. And then I think his physicality will be the reason why you see him line up on tight ends. So, and I don't really think that we really have a safety I feel comfortable, even as good as Justin Reed is. I don't have it. There's not a safety on the roster I feel comfortable covering tight ends. Week 1 against Kelsey, the only person I feel comfortable with, and that's even after the bust in the playoffs, is Lonnie Johnson because of his size and his physicality. I don't know if there's somebody else on the roster that's able to cover tight ends in the way that Lonnie can. So I agree. This is the route they're going. There's a reason why he's taking snaps at safety. He's taking snaps at outside corner. And, he even came out today and basically said, I'm a DB. I'm not necessarily a corner. I'm not necessarily a safety. I'm going to play wherever I need to play. The more you can do, the better. And I expect to see that week 1 and throughout the season.
Yeah, we already touched on it a little bit. I think it's the same route that they went with AJ Boye. He's going to be the tight end killer. That's why he was practicing with the safeties so he can cover tight ends. And you couldn't ask for somebody to have a better physical makeup than Lonnie Johnson to cover tight ends. Like if you were going to design a corner or a safety to be able to cover somebody like Travis Kelce, Lonnie Johnson's who you would design. So all for it.
Yeah, and you guys covered a lot of the positive things, so I just want to play devil's advocate and just see both sides. I think the only really negatives of this happening is, one, safety's got to tackle. Lonnie Johnson, I do not feel comfortable with him tackling. And so if we want him to cover Kelce, these tight ends, whatever, then teams could start running the ball on us and attack him. So that'd be one thing, but he is a very physical dude. He takes pride in his tackling. He just got to clean that up, and DBs always do over their career at least a little bit. And then the second thing that I'm more kind of personally worried about is if Lonnie's playing the safety stopper and he's not on the outside corner like I want, that means Roby's likely on the starting outside corner with Conley. And then you've got Hargraves, John Reed, Keon Crossan, I don't know, someone else starting in the slot. And I don't feel comfortable about all those other slot cornerbacks, even with all the praise that John Reed has gotten. So it's just something to look out for. And we'll get those answers week 1.
Well, I also think, Jordan, another thing to think about is, Eric Murray also taking a lot of snaps in the nickel as well. So, it all depends on the scheme and the formation, right? If Lonnie's playing in that safety to cover tight ends and Eric Murray's lined up in the slot, you still have Roby and Conley on the outside. So there's other options that you have with this defense, given the depth at cornerback. My biggest issue is the fact that if you're not having him play a position, he's never going to be great at a position. So if you're lining him up in safety and you're expecting him to be your tight end stopper, well, tight end stoppers don't get paid a lot in this league. And tight end stoppers are not going to be as valued as a top tier corner. And Lonnie has the tools and the physical traits to be a top tier corner. So if he's playing outside a lot, but we're going up against Zach Ertz, Travis Kelce, George Kittle, and he's playing against those tight ends, I'm fine, but it can't be one of those things that we see a lot of. It's got to be a game plan specific thing, and I'll be totally fine with it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm trying to look up our schedule right now, but just kind of off the top of my head. So we're definitely going to have to do it for Kelce. Then week 2 against the Ravens, I would like us to do it against Mark Andrews. Yep. Week 3 is the Steelers.
And Eric
Ebron. Yeah, we always seem to have trouble with Ebron for whatever the reason. So there are definitely some tight ends and then I'm trying to think of in our division.
That's why Lonnie Johnson was out there with the safeties.
I
don't think they're going to ask him to play like a true safety role. It's just usually in their formation, it's one of the safeties that are covering the inside tight end, and that's going to be Johnson.
All right, next one. Kovu Khan says it seems like this is the same one. I don't know why I thought this was different.
I think that's it.
I think that's everything.
Sweet.
Perfect.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for checking out the stream. Make sure you guys click like and subscribe for that. Make sure you follow all of us here at Houston, at Texans Unfiltered. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Houston FB Pod. You can follow me at I am Young Ari Gold and John at John A Wade 3 on Twitter. Don't forget to follow Texans_Thoughts, our partner and also lead writer for the website and YouTube creator. Don't forget to follow Patrick Storm TU. And then also don't forget to follow our newest writer, Jair, at JRL Sports TX. Also want to make sure that we do a big shout out to our newest intern, Paul, who is killing it with the content, putting together a ton of stuff to make sure that you guys can have a sneak peek into what we're doing and also just taking over Instagram and doing very creative things. Paul, you're killing it. You're doing a great job. Keep it up. That's awesome. And don't forget to go to Eventbrite, get your RSVP for the Cobos Q opening game event for the Kansas City Chiefs. The Johnsons in the backfield shirts are flying off the shelf, so make sure you guys get those. I had 2 today that were out of stock because they didn't have enough shirts. So make sure you guys go do that soon. I've already switched it over, so there should be more. And with that being said, I'm Young R.A. Gold signing off for Texans Unfiltered. We will catch you guys next week. Rockets suck.